You twins?
Nah, we cousins.
Have you ever walked out of a movie theater, sat in your car, and just felt completely changed by what you just saw?
You keep dancing with the devil.
Something entirely different,
We ain't gonna kill every last one of you.
something profoundly better that you just cannot stop thinking about. That is exactly what happened to me with Ryan Coogler's 2025 film, Sinners. So what actually makes a movie not just good, but a true cinematic masterpiece? Is it the way the camera moves? Is it the depth of the story? Or is it the performances that make you forget you're watching actors on a screen? Sometimes it is the perfect storm of all those things working together so seamlessly that you forget you are even watching a movie. That is the immersive experience Sinners offers. Within the first 30 seconds to a minute of watching this film, you realize that you are not just watching another standard Hollywood cash grab. You're looking at a masterclass in visual storytelling, thematic depth, and intelligent horror. So settle in, grab a drink, because in this video, we'll break down exactly why Sinners is a cinematic masterpiece. Starting with the first thing you notice on screen, the look of Sinners. You could pause this movie at almost any second, print the frame and hang it on your wall. It is not just pretty for the sake of being pretty. There is a deep psychological reason why this movie looks the way it does. The filmmakers made a massive, risky decision to shoot this movie on large format film, specifically blending IMAX 70mm and Ultra Panavision. Now, if you're not a massive film nerd, that might just sound like technical jargon, but it completely changes how you feel when you watch the movie. Usually, filmmakers shoot on wide-angle lenses if they want to show a big environment, but wide lenses distort faces. They stretch things out. By shooting on these massive film formats, using the exact same custom 50mm and 80mm lenses that were used on Oppenheimer, Coogler and his cinematographer were able to keep the characters looking natural and intimate, while still capturing the incredibly vast, flat landscapes of the 1930s American South. As a viewer, you are placed incredibly close to these characters emotionally. The depth of field is unbelievably shallow, meaning the characters are in crisp, sharp focus while the chaotic world around them blurs beautifully into the background. There are these huge chaotic dance scenes in the juke joint where the focus smoothly glides from a ballet dancer landing a jump over to a hip-hop dancer and finally landing on Sammy playing the guitar. You do not even realize the camera is holding your hand and telling you exactly where to look. At the same time, when we step outside into the Mississippi Delta, the extreme width of the Ultra Panavision format shows you just how flat and isolated this place is. You see the horizon stretching out forever, and it creates this subconscious feeling of dread. You realize that if these characters get into any trouble, nobody is coming to help them. They are miles away from safety and they are completely on their own. The format itself mirrors the themes of the movie. It is vast, it is beautiful, but it is deeply isolating. And speaking of the themes, that is where Sinners really elevates itself from a standard horror flick into something extraordinary. The movie was marketed as a vampire horror film, and do not get me wrong, it definitely has some terrifying vampire moments, but that is barely scratching the surface of what this movie actually is. It is a total genre blender. The first half of the film barely feels like a horror movie at all. It feels more like a heist movie. We spend the first act watching Smoke and Stack, the twin brothers, going around town, assembling their crew, making deals, and gathering the resources they need to open their juke joint. We see the effort and the sweat that goes into building this place. It grounds the story in reality. You care about the juke joint because you watch them build it from nothing. Then halfway through, the genre flips completely. The vampires attack the grand opening and the movie turns into this intense survival action thriller. But even the vampires are not your standard run-of-the-mill bloodsuckers. Think about the vampires we usually get in movies. You have the aristocratic, cape-wearing Dracula types, you have the romantic, brooding Twilight types, and you have the monstrous, grotesque Nosferatu types. Sinners creates a totally new type of vampire. They are a metaphor for assimilation and cultural erasure. The lead vampire, Remick, is an Irishman who has lost his own cultural heritage to America, and now he is doing the exact same thing to the black community in the South.
Can't we just, for one night, just all be family? You don't need to do that, sir. We'll be on our way.
He promises them fellowship and love. He promises equality. But his version of equality requires you to give up your soul, your music, and your history. He wants them to assimilate into his hive mind so they can be safe from the horrific racism of the Jim Crow South. This sets up the entire central conflict of the film, and it is brilliant. The question is not just how do we survive the monsters. The question is, do you give up who you really are and assimilate to stay safe? Or do you fight to keep your culture alive, even if it means you might die? Every single character in this movie falls somewhere on that spectrum. Take Sammy for example, the incredibly gifted blues musician. He is the heart and soul of the film. People from all sides are trying to pull him in different directions. His father wants him to assimilate into Christianity and stop playing the blues. The vampires want to literally consume his soul and steal his music. But the blues is the only thing that connects Sammy to his true heritage. When the vampires sing, they sing pre-existing Irish folk songs or old blues covers, and it feels hollow. They are just mimicking things they stole. But when Sammy and the other protagonists sing, they are singing original songs that flow straight from their souls. Music is treated as a sacred bond, a direct line to their ancestors. It is a way to heal the community's trauma by bringing the pain into the light rather than burying it. This is what I mean when I say that the horror in this movie is intelligent. It is not just loud noises and sudden jumps. The scares actually mean something to the story. Think about how many horror movies you have seen where characters die for completely stupid reasons. Usually someone makes a dumb mistake or goes into the dark basement alone and you roll your eyes because it is just lazy writing. In Sinners, the horror stems directly from the character's internal struggles. Take the character of Mary for example. In any other movie, she would be the fodder for the monsters. But here, she goes out to the vampires because she feels completely disconnected from her roots. She has a mixed heritage and does not fully fit in either community. So when the vampires offer her fellowship and love, she walks right into their trap.
I'm sad as all, but I don't need no saving.
Yes. Yes, you do. You all do.
Her death is a direct result of a tragic search for belonging. It breaks your heart and it makes the horror so much more effective because it is rooted in real human emotion. Even the jump scares are perfectly crafted. There is that brilliant moment where the vampire cornbread comes back from being gone away too long and he asks to be invited inside. He does not just attack, he stands there acting totally normal, asking to come in. The tension builds and builds because the characters and the audience realize something is incredibly wrong. It establishes the rules of the vampires in a way that pushes the story forward. The movie does not rely on cheap tricks. It trusts the audience to feel the dread creeping in. Then we have to talk about the sheer technical brilliance of Michael B. Jordan playing both Smoke and Stack. This could have so easily been a distracting gimmick, but instead it is one of the most compelling parts of the movie.
You twins? Nah, we cousins.
You completely buy that these two are two different people, and it is not just movie magic. Though the special effects team used this insane custom carbon fiber halo camera rigged with 12 cameras pointed at his face to map his expressions onto a body double seamlessly.
Deployed a bespoke custom facial capture rig that we dubbed the Halo rig.
Hey, how about a camera rig that they strap on?
The Halo rig itself is a carbon fiber ring mounted on actors' shoulders.
The real magic is in the performance. Michael B. Jordan worked with dialect coaches to figure out exactly how each twin would hold their trauma. Smoke walks differently. He's grounded, heavy, burdened by the loss of his child and the violent choices he has had to make to protect his brother. Stack is loose, flashy, charming, but carrying this chaotic, dangerous energy. And the filmmakers used every tool at their disposal to separate these two, especially color. If you watch closely, there is this incredible red and blue color motif running through the entire movie. Smoke is almost always associated with the color blue. He wears a blue cap, he drives a blue truck with blue rims, the lighting around him often leans cool, and blue represents a lot here. It represents the working class, but more importantly, it represents the blues itself. The term blues comes from the Blue Devils, an old term for melancholy and visual hallucinations from alcohol withdrawal. Smoke is a deeply sad character haunted by literal and figurative ghosts. Stack, on the other hand, is associated with red. He wears a red gambler hat, he drives a red car, he loves gambling and casinos. Red is the color of danger, of blood, and of the devil. Throughout the movie, Stack is constantly making deals, trying to tempt people with money or alcohol, acting almost like a demon making a crossroads bargain. There is even an unbelievable shot where Sammy is standing between the two brothers and Smoke is on one side like a guardian angel in blue, while Stack is on the other side like a devil in red, whispering in his ear. It is such a brilliant, subtle piece of visual storytelling that you might not even register consciously, but it completely dictates how you feel about the characters. The production design does this same kind of heavy lifting. They built an entire world that feels unbelievably real. The movie is set in 1932 Mississippi and the level of historical detail is staggering. The production designer even researched actual currency used on southern plantations during that era and had custom wooden nickels made for the juke joint scenes. That is the kind of detail most directors would never bother with, but Coogler knows that to make the supernatural elements feel scary, the real world has to feel incredibly grounded. When you walk through the town in the movie, you see the racial divide built right into the set design. The stores run by the black community sell tools, flour, cornmeal, things needed for harsh labor and survival. The stores on the white side of town sells flowers, cakes and books. It is a quiet visual reminder of the crushing inequality these characters are living under every single day. The vampires are terrifying, yes, but the mundane, systematic racism of the era is equally suffocating, and the movie never lets you forget that. All of these elements, the breathtaking large format camera work, the meticulous production design, the genius thematic writing, the dual performance, they all build up to one of the most satisfying and meaningful climaxes I have ever seen in a theater. We see these ideas physically clash. When the lead vampire attacks Sammy at the end, Sammy tries to defend himself by reciting the Lord's Prayer. It is a moment of desperation, reaching for a religion that was historically forced upon his people. But it does not work. The vampire literally joins in and finishes the prayer with him. Because the vampire represents that exact same force of forced assimilation, the prayer offers no protection. It is only when Sammy reaches for his guitar, the physical embodiment of his true culture, his music and his ancestors, and smashes the vampire with it, that he actually does any damage. The guitar has silver in it, which burns the vampire, but symbolically it is a triumph, incredible moment because he literally weaponizes his heritage to fight back against erasure. And the movie carries these themes right through to the very end. Look at the paths that twin brothers take. Smoke chooses resistance. He fights off the vampires, kills the KKK members, and has a triumphant sacrificial finale where he retains his soul and his heritage, even seeing a vision of his child as he passes. His legacy lives on. Stack, on the other hand, chooses to assimilate. He becomes a vampire to survive, but as we see in the post-credit scene, his soul is trapped. He is doomed to roam the earth buying old blues records because he can no longer truly experience the joy of his own culture. He traded his identity for safety and he lost everything that made him human. That is why Sinners is a masterpiece. It does not just want to entertain you for 2 hours. Though it absolutely does that, it wants to say something vital about who we are, where we come from, and what we are willing to sacrifice to belong. It uses a shell of a blockbuster horror movie to deliver a profound message about the Black experience, the history of the South, and the power of art to heal trauma. In a time when many huge movies feel like they were written by a committee or created by an algorithm just to hit standard beats, Sinners feels wildly, wonderfully human. When you sit down and look at the landscape of cinema today, it is incredibly rare to find a film that fires on all cylinders like this. So the next time someone asks you what makes a movie a masterpiece, you can point them directly to this film. If you haven't seen it yet, or if you only saw it as a surface level thriller, I urge you to go back and watch it again. Pay attention to the colors, listen to the music, and watch how the camera moves. You will realize that you are watching one of the most inspirational pieces of cinema of this entire decade.
You're goddamn right.
If you found this video insightful and are interested in watching more, check out a video on Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another right here. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.